We're live with the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call here 7 nights a week, 412-575-2600. That is the number to call. You can tweet me at KDPomp, tweet Paul at Paul Zeise. We're taking your calls, talking about the Penguins, which are still going 3-3. Tom Kuhnackel puck in the net, called no goal, and it was reviewed. It's no goal. So let's get right to the lines that a lot of people want to talk here. Tom in South Park, you're first up, Tom. How you doing?
Good, Bob. How you doing?
We're fine, thank you.
I was just calling. I mean, I watched Mike Sullivan make decisions on defensive players. Why is Olimata in the lineup instead of Jack Johnson?
That's a funny question because at the beginning of the year, a lot of people wondered why Jack Johnson was dressed for any game. But that's a good question, Tom. We'll answer it. Thank you. Paul, it was one of those choices he had to make. And, you know, Matta, first of all, I know a lot of people don't like Matta. I do. I think he's a good player. He's not as fast as he once was, but I think technically sound, although he made some mistakes here tonight. I thought Pettersson might be the guy to sit. Instead, it was Johnson. Kind of a strange move.
I think he wanted Pettersson and Gobranson to stay together. I think it's why he wasn't going to put one of those two guys down. It really came down to it had to be Matta or Jack Johnson, I think, right? I mean,
well, again, I thought Pettersson, but I understand
he wanted to keep those
two guys
that pairing together.
But they're the 5 and 6 defensemen. If you had to rate them, those two 5 and 6 would not be rated ahead of Matta or Johnson.
But the way he's looking at it is they're 5 and 6, but they play very well together.
I understand.
So why break up that pairing?
Well, if that's his logic, I'd like to hear it because we really didn't hear it. He didn't really talk too
much. And then I don't know. I mean, the question would be why is Jack Johnson the odd man out when he played all 82 games?
Well, Pettersson played all the ones too. Yeah, that's a good question.
You know what I mean?
Was out with an injury.
Matta, and I guess, you know, people are going to be upset about Matta because, you know, the last goal, I think probably was his fault. But the bottom line is when you have to make decisions, we knew they had 7 defensemen that he likes, and that one of them was going to have to sit out every night. So I don't know why we would be surprised by that.
Yeah. No, it's one of those choices they had to make, and they made it. Islanders now on the counterattack. Kuhnackel was behind the defense. They couldn't get him the puck. Let's go out to line 2. Marilyn and Munhall. Hey, Marilyn, what's up?
Hi. Jack Johnson was a healthy scratch tonight. Now, if any other Penguin got hurt and was out for the duration of the game, would Jack Johnson be able to come in and play during the game?
No, he's scratched, he's scratched. So if they play with 5 defensemen or 4, if there's injury, you have to just suck it up, and that would be the end of that. And the Islanders apparently have just, of course, today in overtime, you can't celebrate anything. It was a great play, a 2-on-1. Matt Barzal, who I thought would get the game winner if it was an Islander player. He hasn't scored in quite some time. Josh Bailey, the guy who hit the goalpost at the end of regulation, looks like he's going to get this goal. But, of course, Mike Sullivan is urging them to check it out. Paul, it seems like this is one thing about replay that drives me nuts, is that it's every single play. You can't celebrate because you don't know what the heck's going on.
Oh, and I think that's really what is the biggest problem.
That's got to be called a goal. To me, that's a goal. It was goal on
Are they looking at?
Yeah, but he was forced into another offside.
Are they looking at offsides, maybe?
Oh, my goodness.
Who knows?
Maybe I thought it was goalie. You know, I glanced up. I just saw the 2-on-1 as it was into the zone. We'll see. Again, we can't even talk about
there's
it.
There's never any goal
I think it's more or less did he crash into it, but he was pushed in by Letang. Yeah. There's not much you can do there, right?
No, I think they're looking at the offsides too because look at the start of the play.
I don't know about that. We'll see.
I mean, I'm just saying. We can't hear it, but I'm just saying there's so many things they look at. It just gets to a point where it's so stupid.
Well, the Penguins have gotten all the calls.
Listen, I understand why some people like replay and reviews and stuff. This is what they're looking at here, isn't it?
That's onside.
It looks like he's on sides there. So unless they're calling it goaltender interference, I'm not sure what they're looking at. But the bottom line is
Barzal hit the goalpost first, and then the rebound was put in.
Yeah, and I think
then they call it official. It is final. The Islanders win, no offside, and that is the goal in overtime that decides it. Rich Walsh will be in New York, and then we'll have post-game reaction. So a big win for the Islanders. Mike Sullivan has chin out. He's not happy. And he shouldn't be because the Penguins gave up a lot of chances there at the end and actually should have.
I guess, you know, the way you look at it is they didn't play a very good hockey game and took overtime for the Islanders to beat them. Now, the flip side of it is it shows that the Islanders can beat them. You know what I mean? Like, if I'd have told you there were 7 goals scored in this game, who would you thought would have won? I would have thought, well, the Penguins are going to win. That means they win 5-2 or something, right? But the Islanders scored 4 goals in this game.
They did. So it's Bailey from Barzal.
And how many of them were – none of them were power play goals, were they?
Oh, yeah, they had one.
Or one
power play.
but I'm
here's the
just
thing.
saying, so they had
The
three.
But the one thing that happened in this game, Paul, which is something the Islanders want, is they never trailed. The Penguins trailed early, even though they won an offside review early on. They trailed, they tied, they trailed, they tied. They trailed, they tied, and then they go to overtime and they lose. So.
Well, what I'm saying is they scored 3 even-strength goals.
Right.
So, if they score 3 goals every night, they might have a shot to win this thing.
If this is going to go back and forth, the Islanders don't necessarily want to engage the Penguins.
No, they don't.
It's playing with fire. But they show you that they can skate. Now, whether or not they can score enough is another story. All right, let's go out to line 5. That's Pete in Squirrel Hill. What's up, Pete?
Hey, guys, how are you tonight?
Good. What's going on?
A few points. Number one, the officiating in this game tonight was absolutely horrible. I mean, really, really bad. And there can't be goaltending interference if the goaltender's not in a blue painted area. But about the game, well, I was jumping back and forth during Penguin intermission. I went to the Pirate game. It was on Major League Baseball Network. I saw something I can't remember ever seeing. Starling Marte's in a batter's box, Bob, with a hooded sweatshirt on.
Yeah, I saw that too.
What was going on with the weather in Chicago? What was it like?
They had a big front. If it was like blizzard conditions throughout the Midwest, they escaped some of it, but they had snow, temperatures dropped. It's just one of those things that happens this time of the year. So,
all right, my man.
But the bottom line was, the Pirates took advantage of Yu Darvish, who wasn't very good again early.
I can't believe the Cubs haven't called Dallas Keuchel by now. I mean, they need a pitcher so bad.
I would like the Pirates to call him. But
I understand that, but if I'm the Cubs, I call him tomorrow and say, get, whatever it takes to get you. And the other guy, I would call Kimbrel, too, if I was the Cubs.
Yeah, I don't understand. Those two guys are still out of work. That should not be the case.
They're asking for too much money, but sooner or later, what they're hoping is a team like the Cubs, desperate enough, is going to come and give them the money they want.
Well, Islanders win, take game 1. I predicted game 1 will go to the Islanders just in case, because I thought the energy there, if you've never been to the Nassau County Coliseum, it is a really interesting place to watch. It's loud, and this fan base, man, they haven't had a chance to have home ice advantage since 1988 in the playoff. They're starved. Not unlike, Paul, what we saw the Pirates in 2013 when Johnny Cueto and the Reds came to town. It's that sort of starvation when it comes to watching good quality hockey, and they have a good quality hockey.
Absolutely.
So Josh Bailey gets to go back for more reaction. We got Sam in New Bethlehem. Hey, Sam, what's up?
Hi, Bob. Hi, Paul.
Hello.
What's going on?
Just to make a couple comments and have you comment on them. I hate to see bad calls in sports on either team. It taints the game. But I know that there are bad calls. But I got to tell you, this third period was so pro-Penguin, it was unbelievable.
It was. I agree.
There were 3 guys pulled down and not 1 penalty.
Well, see, that's the thing. And Bob Airy, and I talked to Bob a lot about it. He's tremendous on the broad. He said something that a lot of people believe, and they don't want to decide games. But again, if you're missing calls, you are deciding games by not giving a team like New York the opportunity, or either one. It doesn't matter. If you're an official, you've got to make the call regardless of what I don't care if it's 2-2, 3-3, late in the game. If it's a penalty, it's a penalty.
No, absolutely. That's the problem, too, is shouldn't matter what time of the game, and it shouldn't matter what the circumstances are. You've got to make calls as if it's the first minute or, the 5th minute of the first period, the same way if it's 30 seconds left in the third period. And that goes for all sports. I mean, we see the same thing in basketball, where sometimes referees will swallow their whistle the last minute. I don't like it at all. I really didn't like, what did you think of the call? Was it Gilbranson that went into the?
Yeah, I thought that was a non-call.
I thought that was a strange call.
Simultaneous
call.
What
exactly?
Well,
they called boarding.
They said Anders Lee took his feet from out it, but they were both into the boards.
And they both kind of were falling down a little bit.
And Goodbranson had to leave the game. Dumoulin got hit early by Brock Nelson. He had to leave the game. He played. I'll tell you what, though, he played extremely well, breaking up 2-on-1s. Pedersen also went down and made some good plays as well. But the bottom line is, the Penguins didn't do enough tonight, and they gave up too many chances. One of the things we're going to go to a break, but one of the things I always worry about with them is giving up too many grade A chances, and they sometimes will hang the goalie out to dry.
And that's really how you let a team like the Islanders hang around, is you give an offense that's not that great a lot of really good looks, and you know what? All those guys are professional hockey players. They're going to bury some of those.
One other stunning result as we go to break, we'll be back with more of your calls, it was 3-0 Tampa over Columbus after 1 period, and Columbus staged an improbable comeback. They got the next 4 goals, and they take game 1, steal it against the Tampa Bay Lightning at Amalie Arena, 4-3 your final. We're just getting started. More calls on the way right here on Pittsburgh CW.